All right, lovely. So, welcome, Laurie. I've got you here today to talk a little bit about content. Um, Content is one of those things, as you know, that I talk about a lot. It's one of the best ways I've found to grow my business. And as someone who's worked with me, one of the things that I've admired about you from afar is your content and the consistency with which you create it. So, for those that don't know you, your name's Laurie Walters. You're a parenting coach that specializes in supporting parents of teenagers and young adults. And I love your content, even though my little ones are only 4 and 7. I read everything you write. And I just wanted us to have a conversation, to just tap into how you do it, basically, because being consistent with content is something that lots of my people struggle with. And I just want to hear from you a little bit about your practice, a little bit about how you inevitably went, because nobody starts out the gate publishing,
Right?
consistent content. Exactly. So
Yeah.
yeah, maybe you can just start there. Like what was your relationship to marketing? I mean, I usually use the term content creation versus marketing because
hmm
I like people to think of
hmm
it differently to marketing. But yeah, tell us a bit about how things were for you in that department before you became as consistent as you are today.
Yeah. I think, when I was starting out, um, I was pretty nervous about publishing stuff. I had a lot of, is this the right thing to say? What if someone disagrees with me? What if nobody reads it, or what if someone thinks this is, an off opinion or something? And so it would really kind of slow me down from writing, from publishing. And it was, kind of when I started thinking about, I mean, you put the idea in my head, what if I wrote every week? And what started to shift for me was this can just be one idea. This doesn't have to be my whole, this is me, this is everything I believe, this is everything I know and I've experienced. Just to start seeing it in smaller bits. Like that was so important for me. And it became easier to write it and push send because it was just part of me
Mm.
and what I was exploring. And it really was exploring, you know. I think it was a post George had written like way back when, years ago, but like, let your writing help you find your voice. Because I was coming into this like, oh, what do I want to say? Oh, everything's already been said before. What's my expression here? And it's been through writing that I've developed, yeah, a voice. It's just like people said it would happen, but it took me a while to kind of, go, oh, this is actually happening. um, and then the consistency. What is it? The consistency. I set my mind to doing it,
Mm.
and I set up a spreadsheet, you know, and challenged myself. What happens if I just really did this? What if I send out a newsletter every week? What would happen? And now it's been 2 years of doing that. I'm
Mm.
hitting 100 marks in Medium and different places. And it's like, oh, wow, that's what happens.
Yeah, you
You
build.
develop a rhythm.
Yeah,
It's something I do every week. I
yeah.
write.
I love that. And you build a body of work. That's what I found, you know. You build a body of work, which is really wonderful. It becomes a thing in and of itself versus this, you know,
Mhm.
marketing thing.
Yeah, yeah, it's interesting because I don't think of my writing as marketing.
Mm.
I really don't. It's my relationship with my readers. I really feel that. I have those interactions with them and those responses from them. And at the same time, when I get, when there are new subscribers or when I get inquiries from new clients, it's because they've read something.
Yeah.
They've Googled something and there's one of my articles, or they're on Medium and they're following me or something. But it is marketing, but I don't think of it like when I'm writing it. I'm not going, oh, I hope this gets me a new client. It's more like, oh, I hope this helps somebody.
Yeah, I love that.
Right.
Yeah, I love
Yeah.
that. Now, something that a lot of people say to me is, where do I find the time? Where do I find, because, typically I create long form written content, you create long form written content. These aren't, pithy, short social media posts. These are lengthy articles. And so I'm just curious. I know how I do it. I'm curious how you do it. Like, how do you find the time?
I don't do it like you do it because I know you sit down and write and then it's done. I mine is kind of a bit and tweak and change and kind of process. So it can be, 10 minutes here, 20 minutes here. It kind of goes like that through my week. I have kind of a bank of ideas. And so I start by going in there and kind of, oh, what do I want to write about, and sort of feel into what direction would be good, and thinking of my readers and what I've been hearing. And then I'll sort of map it out roughly, and then I kind of leave it. And then I often take my phone and go walk in the woods or something and sort of talk about it. It helps me find to clarify what I really want to say, because there's like an idea or some information or something I want to share, but like how I want it to come from me and what's from my heart to my readers. And so that kind of comes into it, and then I'll let it sit, and then I'll look at it the next day and tweak it a bit and add some more love or take something out. And so it's kind of a tweak. And then my happy thing is when I put it in MailChimp, because I love laying things out and I love finding the picture I want to use. It's like a little reward for me after doing the writing. So that's always my sweet moments. And then, I used to publish with kind of this trepidation, and now it's just, hope this helps somebody. I have no idea. Send. And then I'm done with it. I'm not rethinking it or, oh, I should anything, like let it go. And I say that because, I've written some articles that I thought were pretty, and those will be the ones, right? Always I'll go, oh, that wasn't that great. And yeah, sure enough, someone writes and goes, oh my God, thank you. That was so helpful. Yeah. Right? You just don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. Now, I love what you're describing here, Laura, because for me, one of the biggest shifts I try to help people make is, with their content, is to stop thinking about marketing to people and try and think about connecting with people. And it sounds like, listening to you talk, it's so beautiful. It sounds like your content really is a kind of an extension of the service you provide for people. It's another way of helping people who are struggling with the problems that your clients have. And so yeah, I just to pull that out, because that feels really important. And you mentioned that people do find your content, and they're the people who maybe come and join your list or inquire about coaching. So that's an obvious benefit. Now, typically what we do is we attach to that, I've got to sit down and write a piece of content that's going to make somebody inquire about working with me. Clearly you're not doing that yet. It's having
I'm
that
not.
result. But I'm curious about, so what I try to remind people of is all the benefits of content creation, beyond the inevitable growth that we might see in our business. Like, talk to me about some of those. Like, what is it about this practice for you that is beneficial beyond that?
Honestly, it is about being of service. Um, the people who read my writing are struggling.
Mm.
They're in difficult places in their lives, and this is painful stuff. And knowing that I have the ability to support a mom who's going like, oh my God, I'm so messing this up. And I don't know what to do. Like, it's really powerful for me. And when I started writing, I didn't know that that would happen. It's
Mm.
been through writing week after week after week and having the feedback that I have and the clients who come to me now, that I realize that it is helpful. And
Mm.
that feels really good to me. I mean, that's why I'm in this particular niche. I mean, I could be coaching corporate clients. I don't want to. I want to work with moms and help their families come together. So it's really feeding my passion and my purpose.
I love that. I mean, this is one of the
Yeah.
reasons I wanted to talk to you. It's funny, before we hit record, you mentioned that even though you um, give yourself permission not to create every week, often you feel compelled to because, the ideas are flowing. Do you want to just speak a little to that in terms of what, the ideas and where they're coming from and
Mm,
how that plays out for you?
yeah, sure. I have way too many ideas, way too many. I have these kind of lists and lots of half-started articles, but that's part of the process. Um, my ideas come from parents, my clients, and my friends and family, and just watching what's going on for people, colleagues, and that sort of thing. So sometimes I will, yeah, I'll jot, oh, this would be a good thing to write about. Um, like I just did a series on boundaries because it just keeps coming up with people over and over. And it's like, okay, I'm going to delve into this and really um, provide some useful material here. Um, I get ideas from I do a fair amount of reading and sort of seeing what's out there. I also get some ideas. I follow a couple of parenting coaches who I completely disagree with.
Mm.
And I do that because I get angry and I go, ah, and then I have to go, okay, so what is the thing I would want to say instead? And that inspires some articles
Yeah,
as well, right?
I love that.
Um,
I know how that
yeah,
one goes.
right? It's like, no, how could you say that? You learn conscious communication in 4 easy steps.
Yeah.
Really? I don't think so. That's not how it works. How can you say that if you've got teenagers?
Yeah.
Um, yeah. And, of course, when people subscribe, in their intake form, I ask them kind of what's your main parenting issue right now? And I hold those in my heart. I always leave like my last each time I get a new subscriber, like I leave that notification in my inbox. So I'm
Mm.
sort of remembering, oh, there's another person who's joined and another couple people, and kind of feeling what brought them um, to me as well.
I love that.
Yeah. So it's kind of all over the place where my ideas are. And I mean, you read my newsletter, so like sometimes I'm providing specific practices. Do this. If this is happening, do this. And sometimes it's more reflective. And sometimes we're talking about communication. Sometimes it's self-exploration or your own, inherited parenting patterns and those things as well. So I do kind of move around.
Yeah.
It's just I mean, I decide,
Yes. I love that.
right?
Yeah. And
Yeah.
also, one of the things I like is you also weave in some personal stories because, of course, you've got I think they're all adults now, aren't they? Children. So yeah, I love that you bring in your personal experience. But for me, what it sounded like when you were talking earlier, and this is definitely my experience with my content, is that most of your ideas come from people. They come from conversations, they come from sessions, they come from,
Yep.
you know, actual real life struggles that people are having versus sitting in an empty room staring at a blank screen and trying to will ourselves to come up with an idea. And so I love that, because that's one of the things that I often talk to people. If people are struggling, I have the same issue as you, that I have too many ideas, but if people are struggling to get ideas, it's usually because they're not talking to enough people. Maybe they haven't yet got enough clients, or, you know, so I always say, you know, then conversations becomes the priority, because out of those conversations and those relationships come the ideas. And you'll know this, it's, for me, it's so easy to write a piece if I'm thinking about the conversation I had with a client this week, or like you say, I've had like sessions all week, and this one topic came up 3 times, and then I must, you know, I kind of feel compelled
Yeah.
to then create the content around that. So I love that. And I'm curious, because one of the things you said about the struggles in the beginning, and a lot of people have this, is that fear of, you know, it's all been said before, like, what makes my voice different? You clearly don't feel that way anymore. Oh, I don't think so. But yeah, could you speak to that? Like, how has that shifted?
Mm. Mm. Oh, that's a great question. I guess I just I guess I just trust. Oh, that's maybe not a helpful answer. That as yeah, I just have begun writing, and write it in my own way, and maybe that idea has been conveyed by many writers in many ways, but when I write it, it feels like my way.
Yeah,
There's information, and I really strive to, weave in a lot of gentleness and love and compassion to my readers, for where they are in their parenting. And so I guess I guess it was just trusting that my voice and my way would develop,
mm,
and it has. And people told me that when I started, and I was kind of like, really? But it is actually true. The more I've written, the more I feel like this is my style of writing.
yeah,
Um, and my readership is very loyal. They're very in. Like my open rate is like 65%
mm,
people go, oh, there's Lori's article. So I know that my voice is coming through,
yeah,
and that's taken some time. Some of the stuff I wrote when I started out is like,
yeah, yeah,
that's okay. You can
yeah.
always take it down, right?
Oh, yeah, or update it. I often go back and update
Right.
things, but yeah.
Updated. It's all
And
right.
I think there's two things that in my experience, of evolve over time. One is your voice, your written voice, which is, you know, just it does become distinct. It's your way of
Right.
writing, and your way of writing may not be the same way you talk, or, you know, it's your written voice, basically. But there's
Mhm.
also something that I've seen for myself and lots of other people, and I'm curious what your experience of this is. The more I write, the more my point of view evolves. So there are times when, not so much these days, because I think I'm quite opinionated these days, and but in the early days when I was exploring my own niche, it was, you know, I was not a beginner, but, you know, I was a beginner. I was a beginner in my niche. I
Mhm.
was, you know, starting this work. Um, I was still discovering what my point of view was on certain things, and I was still finding things and, you know, being like, oh wow, you know, this is new to me. And, you know, and there were times when I remember, I'll give one example. You know, I started to use the terminology conscious business, which I knew what it meant for me. But I realized I hadn't created I'd never really explained that. And so I wrote at the top of a page, or typed probably, you know, what is conscious business and why does it matter? And I almost had no idea what was going to come out on the page till I began. And I'm curious,
Mhm.
have you found that? Because I found sometimes I learn things about my own views or about myself through the process of writing, versus I think sometimes people think I've got to have it all figured out. I have to have my point of view perfectly figured out before I can create. And I found that it's through the creative process that I find that
Mm.
clarity.
Yeah, I think you're right about that. It's not about coming across as an expert who's got it all figured out. And, I mean, I'm a parent too. I'm learning. Hello, it's not like I have all the answers. Um, and so how I want to express things, yeah, it's come. I think when I started out, I did think that I needed to sound like, like an authority, like I had a right to be saying this or something like that. And I mean, that's not how I feel now. It's more being in learning with my readers. And yeah, my opinion has shifted on some things, and some of it just comes from writing. And
Mm.
and I would say too that my niche, although from the beginning I've been working with parents of teens and young adults, but even in what exactly the problem is that we're working on has become clearer and clearer to me,
Yeah.
what why they come to me. you know Not my diagnosis, but like what they're actually, why they
Yeah.
actually come to me, why they're subscribing, why they're coming for coaching. So it's like that clarification has come also through writing.
Mm.
Um, yeah, so it brings greater clarity in my opinions, but also in like my focus and my purpose
I
and who
love
I'm
that.
serving as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. Now, there's one question we touched on earlier, and and then I'll start to bring us to a close. But
Mm.
um, we talked about time, finding the time to create,
Mhm.
and you said that you don't do it how I do, and I do. I do split it out a little bit because I find you have to in a way. But um, as you were describing it, my thought was, as someone who is worried, watching this, that is worried about how long it takes, they might think that sounds like a lot of tweaking and walking and
Mm.
thinking. And however,
Well,
for
that's
me,
me.
yeah, no, well, I mean, I always say good content takes time. The key, I think, and I wonder if you agree, is if you enjoy it. If it takes, a good solid few hours to create a decent piece of content a week and you hate it and every minute is painful, then that's one thing. But if you actually enjoy it, it becomes a creative practice for you, it becomes a way of you clarifying your own thinking about your work and that sort of stuff, then it's time well spent. um I would I would argue. And so I'm just curious, um yeah, what you think of that.
Yeah, I would never recommend anyone to take up what I'm doing unless they enjoy it. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because it is time consuming. But for me, it's a labor of love, and it's a medium that I enjoy.
Yeah.
I'm not going to make podcasts. I'm not going to make reels. I'm not going to travel around with my workshop. It's not me. The
Yeah.
writing is me. So I like, if it's not you, it's not you. Somewhere you've got your way of getting your ideas out there. But I do enjoy it. I enjoy words. I enjoy the process of starting with an idea and ending up, like I said, with something sweet on MailChimp that I ready to push send on. So the process is, yeah, it's rewarding for me. But yeah, it's not for everybody.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
if you don't like writing, or if you're staring at blank pages week after week, I wouldn't do it. I would say
Yeah.
maybe you should be doing something different.
Yeah, exactly.
But it wasn't until, honestly, it wasn't until you challenged me. You said, what happens if you wrote an article a week? And you probably meant for a few months or something, but I've gone way overboard. But it's
A
just
few
the rhythm
years
I've been
later.
found. but it wasn't until, I started like, well, could I really write an article a week? I didn't know.
Yeah.
It was a question for me. So it was, all right, okay, I'm going to try it and see.
Yeah.
And if it would have been too hard and if I would have hated it, then I would have quit. Just turns out that for me, it was like, oh, this is lovely.
Yeah. Oh, I love
Yeah.
that. I really love that, Laurie. And I just want to pull out actually before my final question. You mentioned newsletter, I've mentioned Medium, and so just in a nutshell, so you're obviously on different platforms with your content. Just in a nutshell, what do you do? Is it the same piece? Are you repurposing? Like, how does that work for you?
Yeah, it's mostly the same piece that goes to my readers first. And then it goes to Medium. I do a repurposed version, a shorter version that goes like onto Facebook and LinkedIn and a few other places. Yeah, and that's about it.
Yeah.
I promote my content quite a bit in my Insta, like
Yeah.
here's what's new on Medium, here's what's new on my blog. You'll see those every week. Here's what's coming up in my newsletter if you want to subscribe. So that's a lot of what my social media is, really pointing people towards the content. Yeah.
Lovely. Wonderful. So, I mean, essentially, all your marketing stems from this one piece of content that you write a week, essentially, which is the approach I champion.
Right.
Wonderful.
Do your SEO. Must be
Wonderful.
done.
Yeah. I love it.
Let it be
Yeah.
out there.
Yeah.
And, for me, it's, as you say, there becomes a body of work.
Yeah.
And, I don't ever talk to somebody, who comes for a gift session or a complimentary session or something who doesn't say, I've read 10 of your articles.
Yeah.
Like they always do, right?
I love that.
Yeah.
For me, it's a red flag if they haven't read my content.
Right?
I occasionally get some and I think, oh, I don't know, you don't know me if you haven't
Why
read
are
my
you
content.
calling
Yeah,
me?
exactly.
Yeah, exactly. So that's nice.
Wonderful.
They can get to know me quite a bit.
Yes,
before
yes.
They reach out.
Exactly. For me, it's where I build my relationships. And of course, then, there are other ways once people are in, but onto our list or but yeah, for me, it's one of the primary ways that I have nurtured and built relationships with my community. So it's wonderful for that also. Okay, final question for you, Laurie. And whatever comes to mind, but just bearing in mind the people that might be watching this who are at that point, right now I'm talking to people who love writing. Writing is a passion for them, but they're struggling to get it to work in their business. So maybe that's, I have too many ideas, or I don't have enough ideas, or I'm worried what people will think, or all the concerns you mentioned at the beginning. What would you say to those people?
Don't let your brain overcomplicate it.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be this big. One article is one article. Make it digestible, make it helpful, push send. Then do it again next week or the week after when you're going to do like it's not all this.
Yeah.
Let it be this one article, this one thing, this one parent said to me, like, let that be what I'm working on right now. Just that. The rest will be there next week and the week after and forever. Yeah, keep it simple.
Wonderful.
Focus in on one article.
I love that. I really love that. Now, Laurie, I will be sure to share links to your website and probably your Medium as well for your articles, so people can get a look. Yeah. And is there anything that you're promoting or that you have right now that you want to let people know about? I think you do gift sessions for.
I do. My gift sessions will be in November. I do those twice a year, but honestly, on my site, if you read it, you'll find the place where there's a complimentary coaching session for anyone who's wondering if this approach, and I am the right person to work with them on what's, making them uncomfortable, unsteady, and worrying about the relationship with their teen and young adult, and wanting to do some self-development to get that into a better place. So I'm always welcoming people who are curious.
Wonderful. And if nothing else, you have a wealth of wonderful articles on your website too. All right, Laurie, thank you so much for taking this time to talk to us. Take care.
Thanks so much.